there, everybody. This is Sara. I hope you are all doing well this evening or this afternoon or possibly in the morning, depending on where you guys are. I'm so very glad to be joining you my evening. Hi, Lydia. How are you? Thumbs up. Blue, inky blue thumbs up for me. It's good to see you this evening, Lydia. Again, it was so nice to see you on the weekend. Bonjour, Christine. I'm so glad. Did you get your internet up and working? I assume so. I'm really glad. Hi, Terry. Hello. So good to see everybody. Christine, I think I can tell from you. Oh, hi, Lilith. How are you? Hi, Luann. Christine, from your Facebook post earlier, can I assume that you have the cross-stitch flower die and stamp set? Because the project that you showed was beautiful. Oh, Lilith is giving a thumbs up. Dana, hello from Utah. Hi, Amanda. Oh, Christine, oh, you do have the stamp and die set. The project was beautiful. Dana, thank you for sharing. Hi, Anna Maria. I have to put on my glasses. I think I might be reading the names incorrectly. Thank you for sharing, Dana and Anna Maria. Hello. Nice to see everybody. A tired wave from Lilith. You have it. Lilith and Lydia and I were all together on the weekend. Hi, June. Thanks for sharing, Luann. And we were all at the Altenew event in Daventry in the UK. So we're all a little bit, I'm a little bit tired there too, Lilith. It was a little tricky to get back to work after all that fun. So it is really nice to see some new names and some familiar faces as well. Thank you also, Lydia, for the reminder on the sharing. So as you guys know, if you're sharing the video while we're live, then you can possibly win a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store, which is where I was this morning because they have some really great sales. And I picked up a few things and could have used $15 off my purchase for sure, but nevertheless, so that's an incentive for you to share the video while we're live. And yeah, thank you, Lydia, for pinning that. Hi, Adrifa, thank you for sharing. And yes, you guys, it was a lot of fun this weekend. So if for those who are not familiar, Altenew had a weekend or a Saturday event last Saturday in the UK, and Lilith and Lydia and Tasneem were teaching. And I got to be a student, and it was fantastic. Lots of our other Altenewers were there as well. So it was really fun to see everybody there. If you ever get a chance, I would totally recommend it because it was a fantastic day. Oh, hello from Malta. Oh, very cool. Malta is a place I have not been, but is on my wish list of places to go. Looks absolutely beautiful. So hello, Claire. Nice to see you. So as we're having people hop on while we're kind of just getting started, I just wanted to let you know what the stamps were that we're going to be playing with this evening. And then also, so what I'll do is I'll show you the stamps and the cutting dies, and then also show you the projects that I'm going to show you later as we get into the session. And then I'm going to tilt the camera down and we'll actually get into the nitty-gritty of what I did. Dreefa, you were in the naughty corner, but the naughty corner looked like it was having a lot of fun. You didn't actually look all that naughty, I have to say. So, but glad that you had fun. Hi from Iowa. Hi, Marcia. Oh, and in New York as well. That was no naughty corners, Dreefa. No naughty corners tonight either, please. Certainly not for Lilith and Lydia and myself today, as we're catching up on our sleep. Okay, so first of all, let me share with you the stamps and the cutting dies that we're working with. Now, I think some of you already have this. I know Christine has already been creating really beautiful things with this. Christine Pease, thank you for sharing some of your projects as well. So this is the cross stitch flower set. So I'm going to kind of hold this a little bit off to the side so you can see. Now, if you've not seen this before, you're not sure quite what it was. I looked at it at first too, and I couldn't quite figure this out. So when you're looking at these elements, it really doesn't make sense until you flip it around, and then it starts to look a lot more like something that you can figure out. So this is the flower element here. This is what you see, these parts and pieces. So these things are all going to kind of interlock, and we'll talk about that. But your end result, that's the most important part, is something like this with the big, beautiful flower. You can see as I'm holding it close that there are some little X's on there. That's the cross stitch effect. Now you'll also see that there's a butterfly here. There are two butterflies in this set. So one is flying one way and one is flying the other way. Down here, the green bit, these two stamps there, that's the base of the flower. So you can see you've got a top portion of the flower, you've got the base of the flower, and you've got two butterflies. Then you've also got a lot of the sentiments that Altenew is so well known for. So grateful for all you do, to you from me with love, which is one of my favorites. You know what I love about the Altenew sentiments is that they're always so clean and beautiful and usable, and yet I don't think I would think to phrase things that well. Jan, hi, hi from Iowa. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Don't forget to share while we're live, and you might be in for $15 off at Altenew. So also some of the smaller sentiments, as well as this great big hello. Now the hello, once again, if I hold it up here, you can see that it does have a cross stitch effect to it. The hello, you just stamp it as it is, but the flower and the butterflies those are the things that are going to sort of layer up. Now when I say layering up, as you can see from the example on here, it's going to be different than like the layering flowers that Altenew is so well known for, where you stamp one color and then you stamp another one on top and another one on top. This is more like, I think of it like a Legos or something that would interlock together. So you can see this is going to be your first layer. This one where you've got some innies, you've got some outies here. So hopefully that makes sense as we get into the actual stamping of it. So it's not going to be layering one on top of the other. It's more like matching up. So that's for the cross stitch flowers. Then we've also got cutting dies that go along with it. So again, you can see that big, beautiful flower. You've got the hello, and you've got the two butterflies. Ooh, we've got someone from Italy. Your name just flew up into the top, so I couldn't see your name, but it is great to have someone coming in from Italy as well. So the one thing about the dies that's going to be a little bit different is that they're not cutting out, they're cutting into. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So here's the hello. You can see all of those little dots on there. That's going to cut into your paper or cardstock. But you'll notice that we don't have an outline around the word itself, which means that it's not going to cut out the word as a shape like you might originally think. Instead, it's going to cut into. So you will get something that looks like this. That's that cross stitch effect that we're going for. Elena, hello, nice to see you there. So they're slightly different than what you might expect. And I just got my hands on these the other day when I saw Lydia and got a chance to play with them. And I really feel like these are two tools that are going to be used quite a lot. So the dies are going to give the design an actual pattern. Yes, actually, that is, Claire, that's a good point. If I run my hand on this, I can feel the texture of it. And you'll notice with this card, and I'll show you this one as we get into it, this is embossing, and then I've done some coloring, and then I did the die cutting. So this is actually only using just one of the stamps from the collection and then doing some die cutting on top. So it does give you texture. Now you could definitely use those as a stitching pattern if you wanted to actually do some cross stitching. Christine says, keep the package on this one till you get the hang of the layering points. The dies help lots to layer. Yes, I agree. And this is one that I practiced with for sure, because you do need to get used to it. As with many stamps, you just kind of need to get to know your stamps. So I'll show you the projects that we'll be working on this evening. So we're going to start really easy with the hello. Now this is just stamping. So I've not done anything with the cutting dies. I've just simply stamped this, and I wanted to show you how I've done the inking on here. And I'm using some of my new inks, some of my new favorites. And then I'll also show you how to do the background effect in here. Oh, hello from Belgium. Well, hello. I'm in Germany. Christine is in France. Lydia is in the UK, Lydia behind the badge. So we've got a bit of an international crowd in here as well. So it's nice to see some other folks from Belgium and from Europe. So that was one of our projects. The other one, which I've just been showing you now, this is using embossing powders. Let's see if I can tilt that so that you can see the shine on the embossing powders on the top. Oh, hello from Wisconsin. Wisconsin, that's where I was born. Sparta, Wisconsin. So this is embossing. I've also used some colored pencils on this, so I will show you that technique. It's a very, very easy way to use the stamps. And then the third project that I want to show you is this one. This is actually using some more of the ink blending that I showed you in the first card project, but then I've also added some more heat embossing. And then I didn't stamp the base layer at all, but I did do the die cutting on here. And then when it says, where it says miss you, my friend, that is done with some heat embossing as well. And that is from the stamp set too. So this is just to give you a couple of different options in there too. Okay, hi, hello, nice to see you. And then I have one other little project that I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to step it out, but I just wanted to show you this as well. So this is just using the die itself onto white cardstock. So lots and lots of different things. Claire, you have to have this one for sure. That's what I thought too. The stamp set is the cross stitch flowers. Let me hold it up for you again. Cross stitch flowers, and then you have the cross stitch flower die. And when I looked on the website today, it was 35% off when you bought the bundle. So good deal. The other things that I'm going to be working with today, I've got some new blue inks. I love these inks. And this one is the Sweet Dreams set. So I have 4 gorgeous blues in here. Hello from Ohio. Hi, Mary. Nice to see you. This one has a range of blues, which are going to work beautifully together. So I have Dewdrop, which is a really pale blue. Aqualicious, which is my new favorite of all time. Teal Cave, which is a close new favorite. And then also Galactic Stream. So this is the Sweet Dreams collection. So I'm going to be using these blues. Hi, Bunny from Omaha. Nice to see you. And then I'm also going to be using 2 greens. So these are the greens that I use. Basically, I never put these away. I've got the Forest Glades and Frayed Leaf. So a nice light and medium green. So these are the 2 greens that I'm going to be using. Wendy from the UK, thank you for sharing. Thanks for that. So you guys don't forget to share while we are live, and you might be in for a $15 gift certificate. Soraya, hi, good afternoon. It's good evening here in Europe, so I hope you are having a good afternoon. Okay, I'm also going to be using the Embossing Ink from Altenew. You can tell that mine is well loved. It's gotten a little bit grubby, but it still works no problem at all. So yours will be pristine and white, not a bit grubby as mine is. And then I'm also going to be using the Golden Peach embossing powder too from Altenew, which is one of my favorites. And it works beautifully. I mean, just look with those blues. I absolutely love it. So inks, embossing powders, stamps, dies. I think we've got everything. The only other things I've got a heat tool on hand. I've got some colored pencils that are nothing special. In fact, I cannot find my good colored pencils, so I borrowed these from my 7-year-old. So for this technique, you do not need to have anything good. You can use your kids' colored pencils. I've got a water brush that I'm going to do some spattering, and I've got a little water mister. Craft sheet, and the last thing, I'm going to be using my Misty as well. You don't have to have a stamp positioner to use these stamps, but I find that it really, really helps. I don't know, Christine, do you have a stamp positioner as well? Are you using one for this stamp set? I found that it really, really helped me. So if you've got one on hand, you might want to put that to use with your stamps and stencils. Okay, so I'm gonna stand up, tilt down the camera, and then we can get started straight away into stamping and more. So I'm gonna stand up here, keep my fingers crossed that I'll get you angled in the right place. Hi, Sally from Illinois. Nice to see you. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Can you guys see this okay? So I can move my work surface as well. Just make sure that we've got it somewhat in the center here. Okay, so starting out, first of all, let's take a look at the background. So this background is super easy to do and quick as well. So I'm going to bring in my blank card. Oh, Christine, you do use the positioner, but blocks as well. Yeah, I tried that too. So either one will work. Tony, hi from Pennsylvania. Nice to see you. Okay, so I'm starting with my blank card. One of the things that I really learned at the Altenew event that I went to on the weekend was how often people work directly onto their blank cards. And I tend to, this is a habit I get into, do all of my work onto cardstock and then put it onto my card front. So this is kind of a reminder to me, hey, don't forget, you can always work directly onto your card as well. So I'm working with my two greens. I've got the frayed leaf and the forest glades. I'm going to be starting with my lighter color, which is the frayed leaf. And I've just got my cardstock here on my surface. Now you'll notice with these inks that they're raised up off of the plastic base. So I've got some ink pad exposed past the base, which means that I can do lots of direct to paper inking techniques. Some ink pads, the ink is recessed into the base, which makes it a little bit trickier to do direct to paper. So all I'm going to do, got my cardstock down here on my craft sheet, and I'm just going to be scuffling this back and forth, straight up and down like so. So I want to have the lines going up and down. You'll notice there's a little bit of a bend that I've got going on, so I just turn it the other direction and go back. So this is with the ink pad flat against my cardstock. And these inks dry really quickly. So then the next thing I'm going to do is take my forest glades. Now again, because I've got a raised ink pad, I can use the edge of my ink pad almost to draw with. So I'm going to be holding the ink pad, let's see if I can show this to you, at an angle, just on the edge. And I'm just scuffling on some lines there. I just want to have some movement kind of going up and down so that I've got something going on in my background. I like clean and simple, but I also like to have a little something in there. Claire, Saturday was out of your comfort zone. I know, it's good for us, isn't it? So this is the basis of my background, but I also wanted to have some spattering on there because that's what I like to do. I love to spatter my ink. So I'm gonna get into my beautiful blues and I'll work with my teal cave. Hang on, where are you? Teal cave, beautiful, beautiful color. And again, we're just working right onto my craft sheet. I just need a little square of that. Can you see this? I've got a little square of this on here. I'm gonna take my water mister, just mist some water next to this, and then I'm gonna take a water brush, and I'm just loading up the water brush so that I get some watery medium on here. I think you guys have seen me do this 100 times, but I love doing it. It just adds a little something onto my card. And so what I like to do also is just turn this every now and then so that I don't have my spattering lines all going in the same direction. So I'm just holding this and smacking the barrel so that I get, so that I get a really nice spattered effect. And I love the blue and the green together. I love how they contrast, and yet how they're not competing with each other. Now you can do this with lots and lots of different colors of ink, but it's a great way to use your inks for some other things. So now I've got my card base ready to go. I know that I want to do my stamping on a piece of cardstock about like this. So then I just kind of position this on here and say, okay, I've got the ink going, you know, as much as I want it to, just directly onto my card base. So I'm going to set this aside, and then I'm going to bring in my stamp positioner. Now again, you don't absolutely have to have a stamp positioner for this. I love my Misty, so I've always got it out. So I've got my cardstock. I'm just going to put this right up along the edge here, use my magnets to hold it in place. And then I'm going to grab my nice big hello from my stamp set here. And then what I can do, as you know, with the stamp positioner, you can kind of position your word where you want it to go. Make sure that it's straight. Just place it straight down onto your cardstock as if you were stamping. Close this up, and then this will cling onto the other side. Now what's also nice is I've got a grid line on here, so I can do a little bit of double checking just to make sure that I've got it where I want it to go. And so then what I can do is start inking. Now as you can see on the card, I've got lots of different colors on that one stamp. So I've got my frayed leaf, I've got my forest glade, so I've got my 2 greens. I've also got Aqualicious, which I love, and Teal Cave. So I'm going to have all of these ready to go. And I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is the frayed leaf, and that's going to be on my H. So I'm just going to tap this color on, and I do want to work pretty quickly as I do this. Go into my forest glades and just inking up right next to that. A bit on the E, and then go into Aqualicious. I'm doing some overlapping on here as well. And the Teal Cave. And ink that up. Now I've got some pretty notable lines on here. So then what I'm going to do is just kind of tap with my finger to sort of blend those colors a little bit, just so it's not quite so green, blue, green kind of thing. And then I just need to position this down. I've got my inky finger, give that a bit of a clean. And then I have a multicolored hello. So you can definitely mix and match your colors like this, and it's great to have a nice blend of colors going across. Now, if I wanted to, leaving that in place before I pulled it back up, if I wanted to do any more re-inking on here, I could definitely do that, close it up again. If there were some spots that I thought, ooh, you know, I really would have liked to have it blending a little bit better, you can always do that too. So this is using the hello without any of the cutting, without any of the detail work on here. It's just a quick and simple way to get a really beautiful effect. This is one of the most versatile and unique words on the stamp set. So then what I can do is just simply take this, take my sentiment, and pop it down onto my background. So quick and easy, you're ready to go. So let me show you with the actual card sample, because one thing I wanted to point out is that I've added on, wrapped around this base is some of that hemp twine that I use a lot of. I get it at the grocery store in a great big roll, and it works beautifully on cards. So I wrapped that around there. Now, because I've got kind of a dimensional textured ribbon or thread on here, I don't want to glue this straight down onto the card front because I know it will be too lumpy and it will bow. So I've added some foam tape, which you can see on there. So that is how I've got that on here. Now I've added down here again with the Forest Glades, "To You, My Sweet Friend," which is one of my favorite sentiments on the stamp set. And then I've also added some little rhinestone elements on here too. Quick and easy. And I really love this hello. I think this is just a really fun and different way to create your card focal, and with a nice, easy background on there. Tony, you also love your Misty. She says she's in the habit of using it for even the easiest stamps. I am too. I am too. It never gets put away. So that's the first card that I wanted to show you. Now the second card is using some embossing. And in this case, we're going to do the flower, but the flower only in one part. So let me show you how I've done that. First of all, let me grab a piece of white cardstock. Again, using my Misty. You can use a block for this. There's no reason why not. For this one, I'm going to grab the very top portion of the flower. So this one up here. So this is going to be where you see it on the flower example, the lightest pink. That's the area that I'm taking. So let me pull that off. And then because I'm doing some embossing, I need to have some other things at the ready too. So I'm going to gather those as well. So I'm going to take the design, and you can see as we're looking at it, you can see all those cross stitch effects on there. And I'm just going to position this down onto my cardstock, close this up so that it clings. Now I need to have a couple of other things out and ready to go. So I'm going to clear away some of my small stamps. I need to have my embossing ink, and I also need my embossing powder. Now the other thing I want to have is something to catch my excess embossing powder with, which in this case is just a folded piece of scrap paper. So I've got that all on hand as well. So what I'm going to do is grab the embossing ink. Now I know a lot of you have done heat embossing before, but I'll just give you a quick little tutorial for it as well. Hi Anne, coming from the east coast of Australia. Oh, good day, or maybe good evening. I'm not quite sure. Anne, you'll have to let us know what time it is there. Beautiful Australia. One of my favorite places to visit. Okay, so I'm inking this up with my embossing ink. Now it's going to be clear, so it'll be a little bit tricky to see this until we actually get the embossing powder on here. So I'm just going to make sure that this is smoothly stamped. Lift this off, and then quickly put this into my folded piece of scrap paper, and then I'm going to sprinkle on my embossing powder. And this again is the Golden Peach. So I can be pretty liberal when I'm dropping this on here, because I know that everything's just going to go back into the jar. So you can see that I've got my embossing powder on here, and how beautifully this goes on here. 6:30 a.m. Friday morning. Oh, thank you for the time report. I just couldn't do the math in my head. So good morning to you. Nancy, you have the tulips. Oh, I love tulips. That would be beautiful in this effect. So, okay, I've got all of the extra embossing powder off here. If I find that there are any stray little granules, then I just grab a really fine paintbrush. Let's see if I've got something here on hand. Really fine dry paintbrush, and you can kind of scuffle off if you have any loose little bits of embossing powder before you do the heat setting. Beverly is a lovely color of embossing powder. This is the Golden Peach, which I always want to call it Golden Beach. Golden Peach, and yes, you're right, it is beautiful. So I'm just going to use this to funnel my embossing powder back in. Here's the important step: put the lid on the jar before you go to heat set. So I'm going to grab my heat tool, and I'm just going to start the embossing process. Okay, so embossing, heat embossing is a little bit like watching paint dry, which is why I'm not going to do the whole thing. But I think you can see, as I've done this section over here, that it is shiny. That's because the embossing powder has melted on here. This area has not been heat set yet, so you can see that it is dull, whereas the other side is shiny. And then to get this melted, I just keep going with that heat embossing tool. And then I will have a completely heat embossed section. So I've got one that's already been heat set for us so that you can see the entire thing. So this is just a portion. This is the top of the flower. And then what you can do is do some die cutting and then some coloring. So rather than carrying on with the rest of the stamps in the collection, this is the only portion of the flower that I'm going to stamp. Instead, I'm going to take my flower die. Now remember, this is not going to cut the outline. It's only going to be cutting into the cardstock. So where you see all those dots, those are your stitching dots. Marion says hello. Hello, Marion. Nice to see you. So what I'm going to do is take my die and simply place it down on top of my heat embossed image. Now what I really like about these dies is that they are quite close to the shape of the flower, which means that you're not going to have a big outline. So when you place this down, you just need to look around to make sure that you don't have any bits kind of poking out. So you can see it's actually quite close to the edge. So that makes it really easy when you're lining this up, that you just want to make sure everything is covered. And then you're going to use a little bit of washi tape or stencil tape, whatever kind of low tack tape you have on hand to hold this in place. So one little trick when I'm running things through with some low tack tape to hold it in place, because your embossing and your die cutting machines have so much pressure, of course, because they're cutting through your cardstock, you don't want to have too much of that tape on your cardstock, especially when you're not cutting out the actual image. So you'll notice I have most of my tape on the die, just a little bit on the cardstock. If I have a lot of tape on the cardstock, when I go to pull this off, then it can be at risk of tearing the cardstock. Sue, hey there, I love the golden I know, I love that embossing powder, it's beautiful. So when I get done running this through my machine, then you can see that I have my embossing as well as the die cutting on here. And if you touch it, it is textured. So if I show you, I think you can see on the back here how beautiful that is. So now I've got the outline of my shape. Now I want to give it a little bit of color. So here's where the colored pencils come into the process. And again, as I mentioned, these are not fine artist grade colored pencils. They are literally taken from my 7-year-old's craft box. So I've got a yellow, I've got an orange, I have a light green, and I have a dark green. And I'm really just going to be coloring following the lines that I've got here. Now when I do this, I'm holding my pencil at a bit of an angle so that I'm laying down a lot of color as I'm doing this. So I'm just going to start in here with my yellow. And you can see I'm just following the lines of the embossing and of the die cutting. So I'm going to come in along here in all my detail areas with my yellow pencil. Again, working at more of an angle rather than, scrumbling straight in. Come along here. That's with the yellow. Then I'm going to pick up some orange. And once again, just gently doing some overlapping on here to get some of this color on. And then probably with a clean-ish finger, I'm just going to blend this a little bit with my finger. You can blend colored pencils with your fingers if you're just using a little bit of pressure. You could do this with chalks, you could do this with pan pastels if you've got some. So now you can see I've got some really soft and nice color on here as well. Then I'm going to grab that light green, and And this is where I'm going to do the base of my flower. Kind of have this coming along here. And then with the dark green. And again, just doing a bit of blending so that I get a nice soft effect. And that is how you can get colored pencils worked in with your embossing and with your die cutting and your stamping too. So this is a pretty quick and easy technique. And again, use your colored pencils, use your chalks. Remember those chalks that we had back in the early days of scrapbooking? A full set, they lasted you forever. They would also be really great for this technique. So again, here we go on the finished sample. It's a really nice soft effect, but I do love how that heat embossing on here just gives it another little special touch. I remember when I was growing up, a neighbor of my parents did a lot of embroidery and cross stitch, and she would use metallic threads in some of her work, and it was just absolutely beautiful. So I was kind of thinking of that when I was doing this one with the heat embossing on here and that beautiful golden. Now the sentiment that we've got down here, the to you from me with love, which is also on that stamp set, that has been stamped with dark chocolate. Hello from Kansas. Oh, Tony, beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, when I stamp this sentiment down here at the bottom, I also pop that up onto some foam tape before gluing it down. Hi, Joe. Nice to see you. And then I've wrapped this with, again, a little bit of that hemp twine, and I've got some embellishments in the corners. Really quick, easy to do, and I think it has a really pretty soft and subtle effect. Oh, Dina says thank you. Oh, she's shared. Thank you so much for sharing. Don't forget to share while we're live, because you may be in for a bit of shopping fun at Altenew. So this is the second card project that we're looking at. Now the third one I want to show you is this one here. Now this is actually doing more of the layering with the flower, and it's also got some of the die cutting and that texture and dimension on there for the bottom portion. Then it also says, miss you, my friend, that has been heat embossed, as has this bottom portion. So for this card, I want to show you not only the die cutting and the layering, but also you'll notice some of the blues have a tint of green in them. And that's, again, taking from our first card project where we were doing some greens and blues, blending them onto the stamp before stamping. So let me set aside my card. Let me move aside all of my inks and bring back in my Misty. Kind of clean things off. I'm just using baby wipes to clean my stamps with. And so for this one, what I'm going to use are the top, I've got the top portion of my flower. I'm going to use the second portion, and then I'm going to use the third also with some ink. This bottom layer here is going to be the heat embossing. Oh, she said she just shared and scored some amazing products during the warehouse sale. I know, that's what got me this morning, was the warehouse sale. I had a lot of fun at the warehouse sale. But here's a tip, you guys. Before you shop online, do not call another stamper, in case this case was my mother, and ask her if she needs anything. Like, while I'm out, do you need anything? Because of course she needed something, and then my sister happened to be there as well, and she needed something as well. So I had a lot of fun shopping, not only for myself, but for my family this morning at Altenew. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and place down my first layer of the flower. And again, using the Misty, I've just got that laying down onto my cardstock. And then I'm going to close this up, and this is going to cling. So for this card, let me set aside some of these things. I'm going to be working with my blues. So once again, the Dewdrop, that's going to be my first layer. Aqualicious, beautiful color, that's going to be second layer. Teal Cave is going to be the third layer. And then I'm also working in with my greens. So the Forest Glade and the Frayed Leaf, light and medium green. But I'm going to start with the Dewdrop. That's the lightest color, and that's what I'm going to stamp my very first layer with. So just going to ink this up. I'm going to stamp it twice because this is a really light color and I wanted it just a shade darker. So that's the nice thing that you can do with a stamp positioner, is if it's just a little bit too light for you, you can always come back and add another go round. So that's again with the Dewdrop, which is such a beautiful pale blue. Okay, so now I have my first layer on here. So this is the first layer of my flower. And then what I'm going to do is grab my second layer of the flower. So this is again where we get into matching and sort of interlocking elements. So in this case, I've had this one already. Now I need this guy. And you can tell just by looking at the two on here that one is going to sort of lock into the other, which is where I find a stamp positioner really comes in handy. Glasses are also really important for this, as is good lighting, I will also add. So what I'm going to do is position this so that the outies are going to match with the innies, if that makes any sense. So you'll see them as you're positioning them. You just need to align things. And I really found that I had to double check to make sure that I was aligning on both sides. And when you're looking at this yourself, it will make a lot of sense. So play with the positioning, position that down. Go ahead and close up your stamp positioner. And then I'm going to stamp this round with Aqualicious. I also found that standing while stamping these really helped. If you're not able to stand while you're stamping, it might help to have your stamp position or your work surface on a bench or something slightly lower than where you are, just so that you are able to have more of a bird's eye view. Okay, so I'm going to position this down and press. So that was using the Aqualicious. So you can see where I've got some overlapping on here and where I'm able to get that layer. Now, while my stamp is still on here and my paper is still in place, and I've still got a little bit of ink on here, but that's okay. I'm gonna grab the Forest Glades and I'm just going to add a little bit more ink to that. And then, you know, I like to blend it out with my finger, which is not inky enough already. And then stamp again. I love blue and green together, so this is like kind of a perfect combination for me. And this also gives me the chance to make sure I've got enough color on here. So then I'm able to get a little bit more shading and shadow on there. So once again, just clean this up with a baby wipe. And then what I need to do is come back for the third layer, which is going to be this one down here. Pull that off, and it's the same process. Maybe if I flip this around, you can see that I've got innies on here where I need to simply position this. So that's where the nesting sort of effect comes from. Patty from Iowa, nice to see you, Patty. Thanks for joining us. So in this case, I'm going to scoot this right up into place. It does look a lot like a jigsaw puzzle when you're looking at it. I do a little bit of overlapping, and I find, especially when I'm blending colors, I'm not too worried about having really precise lines. So let's see if I can do this here. And then once again, I'm going to close this up. Now I used already the Dewdrop Aqualicious. Next in line in terms of shading is Teal Cave. And ink this up again. These colors are absolutely stunning. So let's see, get Teal Cave on here. So I've got Teal Cave. Now, again, same process as before. While this is on here, I'm just going to grab the Forest Glades and re-ink that. Now when I'm re-inking it, I'm just kind of tapping along some areas. I'm not too worried about it being completely perfect. And then I've got the basis of the flower. So the next part is going to be adding in the embossing on here. So I'm done with this third layer. And I'll hold this up so that you guys can see what I've got so far. So I just need to add another layer in here for that base. Grab my magnets again. And this one is going to be this little guy down here at the bottom. Now I know that I want to do this with my embossing powder. So once I get this aligned, and same method as before, you just need to sort of fit the innies and the outies together. Nudge this into place. Hopefully, there we go. And have that cling on there. Now, again, because I'm doing my heat embossing, I need to have my golden peach, my embossing ink, and my piece of folded paper. Here it is. Have to locate it, and I'll be ready to go. So I'll ink up my stamp with the embossing ink, close this up, and then quickly, while this is still wet, I'm going to move this aside and put this into my scrap piece of paper, and then just sprinkle this with the golden peach. And once again, just kind of tap off any excess, and you can see, actually you can see I was a little bit off on some of those grids on there, but you can see the process anyway. So tap this off. Kathia says you would love the stamp set. Well, it's on sale. It's 35% off actually, and I think this is part of the warehouse sale. So if you are interested, this is a great deal. And I think it is only 35% off through the 30th. Lydia, you might need to double check me on that one, but I think it is not forever and ever. So a little added incentive. I know. Yep. It's a lot of fun. So you can see I've got the embossing on here. Then, of course, what I need to do is just add my embossing tool with the heat, and then that will melt. So again, just in the interest of time, and because I know it's not that exciting to watch embossing powder melt, what I've got is actually a piece that is already done. So let me pop the lid back on here, and let me grab one of these. Oops. One of these. So the embossing has already been done. And then again, the same process. I just took that die that I had from before, that flower die, position it down, tape it in place using just a little bit of tape to guide that through. And then you will have your piece completely die cut. And it looks like some of the perforations and the holes, it has a bit of a shadow on there. You can also, if you wanted to, go back with a pokey tool. If there were some that looks like it's got, when I tilt it, you can see it's got a little bit of a shadow on there. So then on the back, you can see it's also coming through. It is such a cool effect. Now, in this case, when you're looking at it, you can see that I've got the die cutting going through. I think it looks especially pretty here. So I've got all of the layers of that beautiful color, the greens and the blues, all of the Aqualicious and Teal Cave and Frayed Leaf and Forest Glades. And it's also gone through, of course, the embossing on here. And then the Miss You, My Friend, is also done with the same embossing powder on there too. So let me grab the original card once again, just so that we can take another look at this, because I wanted to show you something else that I've done on here. So in this case, I've got the golden peach embossing on the base of the flower, as well as the stamp sentiment. Now, I didn't have any embroidery thread that matched that perfectly. Unbelievably, I did not have that in my stash, but I did have this gold. And so I thought, oh, I can color coordinate 2 of the different golds. So I edged along the outside. I think you can see it of that, the craft cardstock on here. That has been done with the other gold embossing powder. So that is with, is it called Golden Sands? Can somebody correct me on that? The other gold from Altenew. So there are 2 beautiful, beautiful golds. One of them is the Golden Peach, and then there is the other one that I thought I jotted down, and unfortunately I did not jot it down. It's not anywhere close to me. So it's the other gold. So I'm mixing, the point being that I'm mixing and matching those 2 metallic golds so that I have kind of a warm and a cool gold. And then I'm able to coordinate this and the stamped and embossed sentiment with the gold thread that I've got going around here and along the outside edge of the card. And then I've just added some pearls on here. You can take white thread and color it with ink. That is another very good point. I wish I had been working with you earlier this afternoon. You could have helped me out with that one. But surprisingly, in my great big box of threads and ribbons and twines, I did not happen to have anything that matched perfectly. So this is the 3rd card that I wanted to show you. So this is, again, using another twist on this. Now the last project that I wanted to show you, and this one I did not prepare a demo for, but I did want to show it to you because I thought it was so simple and yet so nice. I just really, really enjoy this design. I think this is one of the ways that you can use the dies on their own in just a really quick and easy way. So this is taking the Hello die, no stamping required. I've just taken the die itself, die cut it through some white cardstock, mounted the cardstock onto red and then onto pink, and added some pearls down at the bottom, and then also some colorful baker's twine on the side, and then some of this really fun ribbon. I think it's just one of those things that it is so, so simple and clean looking. Oh, hi from Germany. I'm in Germany too. I'm here in Hamburg. Nice to see another name from Germany. Cheryl, that's cool. Thank you so much. So this is a really quick and easy way to also incorporate those dies into your work. And again, this is just popping it down and running it through your die cutting machine. Now, if your die cutting machine looks anything like mine, it could use a clean, which means that if you're running crisp white cardstock through your die cutting machine, if you don't have time or a chance to actually clean it out, you might want to wrap this with just a piece of like spare white like printer paper, and then run it through your die cutting machine. And then that way you don't get any of those stray little fibers and things that inevitably are like stuck into the plates. And yes, I know I need to clean my die cutting plates, but that's another workaround in case you don't have time to clean them. Sherry, you love these. Thank you. Oh, you're in Bonn. Oh, nice. We're kind of neighbors. At least we're semi-close by. So once again, let's take another look at the cards that we've been looking at today and the stamps and all the fun stuff that we've been playing with also. So once again, let me bring out this stamp set. This is, woo, everything's everywhere. This is the cross-stitch flower. So here's the stamp set itself. Remember, you've got these great big flower elements on here. You've got that really cool hello, and then you've got all of these super useful little sentiments on here. And when I flip it over, you can see the butterflies, which we did not get a chance to play with, but these are a lot of fun. They build up exactly the same way. You've got a butterfly that flies to the right and one that flies to the left. You've got the nice, great big flower on here. And the flower is quite big. So it's about 11 centimeters going across, which is like 5 inches or so. So it's a nice focal element. So you've got all of those. And then we've also got the die set. So the dies, again, this one, which I think, if nothing else, you can use it for something like that. It's so clean and simple. you've got the butterflies and you've got the flower. So you could also use these as they are in combination with some embroidery thread, some cross-stitching thread, and you could actually do your own cross-stitching on here if you wanted to. So those are the stamps and dies that I've been working with. And again, they're 35% off, the bundle is. So if you get a chance, you might pop on over before the 30th to take a look at those. So once again, we went over creating this really quick and easy background with my scuffly ink technique, and then also doing some color blending onto the stamp. Now, once again, the stamp is just stamped, so there's no die cutting going on with this at all. It just gives you a really beautiful kind of faux stitched look. Hello to you, my sweet friend. And I just love that, to you, my sweet friend. I think that's really fantastic and useful. So that was one of the designs. And then we're also doing a little bit of heat embossing. Now again, this is only using one of the portions of that flower for the stamp, and that's done with a golden peach embossing powder and some colored pencils. Obviously nothing terribly expensive if I've pinched them from my 7-year-old. So a really great and easy technique to use with that. And then we've also gone for the multicolored effect, again combining that ink blending technique that we did with the first card onto the flower itself, adding a little bit of embossing, and then also some of the die cutting on here. Miss you, my friend. I really love that sentiment, and I love the font of that too. So we've got those 3 cards, and then my quick and easy little one here as well. So this is such a fantastic and easy to use stamp and stencil set, or stamp and die set, excuse me. This has been one that I really, really enjoyed, but a couple of tips. Some people were talking about using a stamp positioner. I really find that it helped, but I did use them with blocks too. So if you don't have a MISTI on hand, don't worry, you can always do this as well. I also found that I needed to practice and get my aim and stand while I'm doing the stamping, and of course working in some good lighting. Okay, I'm gonna stand up quickly and just turn our monitor up a little bit. I'm gonna try not to give you too much of the tour of my very messy craft room, but just wanted to say a nice thank you to you guys in person before I sign off for the evening, or in the morning for our friends in Australia. Again, we've got a couple of seconds left to share the video, and you may be able to win a $15 gift certificate over at Altenew. They've got some great deals going on right now, so it may be a place to go check out and see what is new and see what you can get your hands on. Again, the stamp and die set is at a pretty steep discount, I think, so only through the 30th, so you may want to check that out as well. A huge thank you to everybody who joined. Thank you guys all for watching, for joining in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. I really do appreciate it. A big thank you, of course, to Lilith, as well as to Lydia, who is behind the badge at Altenew today. And a big thank you, as always, to Altenew for providing us with the chance to get together like this from all over the world. Where else are you going to find people in Australia and Iceland and Germany and Iowa and Pennsylvania and Utah, Colorado, and so many other places. So I do appreciate everybody checking in, and Altenew for providing us with so much fun and so many fantastic and very tempting things to play with. Keeps us out of trouble. That's what how I like to think of it. So I'm going to sign off for the evening. If you guys come up with any questions, I'll be looking over the questions tomorrow, and if there's anything that you think of afterwards, I'll read through the comments and just make sure that everybody, no questions are left unanswered. So new ways to experiment with, oh yes, with the hello. Thank you, Christine, as always. Merci for joining us this evening from France. So thank you guys so much once again, and I will see you next month. Take care.